Hi, Brett Hall here, and welcome to another product focus from enVisual. Today we're going to be looking at the business process and workflow module called enProcess, which is an integral part of the enVisual system, handling workflow, business process modeling, data capture and reporting. And we're going to be looking at enProcess today by way of an example. We're going to have a look at a new client take-on process being managed by the enProcess workflow module. Now, enVisual workflow processes are very customizable and pretty much enable you to model any business process you need. They're fantastic for managing things like checklists, client take-on procedures, anything at all where you're collecting data in a methodical manner. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm within the enVisual 6 front end. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose from my database, I'm going to choose a prospective client. And when I choose the prospective client, what I will then do is operate on that prospective client with a piece of workflow from my templates. From my templates, I'm going to choose a process called New Prospect Take On. Now what this will do is load the workflow process directly into my screen, where I can start working on that particular piece of workflow. And depending on which choice you make in this screen will determine what screens appear when I press the next button. Now, these checklists themselves are very definable and are very specific to the type of entity you choose. We've got lists, we've got key fields, we've got pictures and images we can link to processes, we've got dates, and we've got tests which validate the data that you're seeing on the screen there. And you'll notice, of course, that the screens themselves have got check boxes in this example. That little red asterisk you see to the right of that those series of check boxes, they're all mandatory fields. So if those fields aren't completed by the user who's putting the data into this particular process, the process will not be allowed to be completed. And this is a client take-on process. So if that particular process is not completed, the actual client will not be taken on in the system as a live client. So you've got a lot of control over what people are basically forced to put into the system prior to a client becoming live. That's why these kind of checklists are ideal for compliance and KYC purposes. In this example screen here, you can see we've got an approval stage. This is typically a stage that would be seen by perhaps a superior or higher level user. They would have been able to review the other information in the process prior to making a decision here. In this case, it could be an approval or rejection of the new client. But as you can see, we've got a few choices. We've got the user themselves will actually do a selection of whether or not to accept or reject the customer, select a risk rating, put some comments into the data as well. And then based on those decisions, the process will go to another screen. And likewise, we see here we've got a separate screen again with the processes moved to. It's an approval stage 2 of the process themselves. This is allowing for a second level of approval, a 4i principle if you like, for something like a transaction here. And then we just move through the process, and that will take you through to the final stage here, which is really, this case here, we've actually rejected the client because the second approver has chosen to reject the application. And you can see here this particular process has a report attached to it, which is useful if you want to generate things like procedural letters and documents to clients. In this case, we're going to say no to that. Okay, I'm going to leave our presentation of enProcess for enVisual right there, and maybe just have a quick recap of what we've had a look at today. enProcess is a workflow and business process modeling module for enVisual. It's an optional module. When you license it, it's very tightly integrated with all parts of the enVisual system. We looked at an example of the client or prospect take-on process and that procedure using the enProcess module, and we saw basically how it used things like checklists and procedural forms to model all the steps and procedures that you would use when taking on a new prospect, including validation of data as it's going into the system, a complete audit trail of all the data entry being made by users running the enProcess screens, and also giving things like multi-level approvals at the end of the processes before data is actually posted into the system. So it's a complete control environment. There's also all sorts of other parts of enProcess which we haven't looked at, such as performance charts, time listings, task listings, bottlenecks, all the kind of management goodies that you'd expect from a process management system. Need more information, you can certainly come to us. We can take you through those in greater detail. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation and look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye now.